Welcome to the EduData Podcast, a podcast that serves as your weekly guide to the data driving higher education. We are your hosts. I'm Jamie Boggs.
And I'm Timothy Davis. Join us every Friday for weekly breakdowns of the most important data, trends, and topics in higher education.
The EduData Podcast is a part of the Enrollify network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at Enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites, linked in the show notes below.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the EduData Podcast. My name is Timothy Davis, here as always with Jamie Boggs. Hey, Jamie.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. Hey, I got my canned response down. I got the little intro here as always with my friend Jamie Boggs. There it is. So, yeah.
I'm ready for us to go on a trip. EduData is going international today.
That's right. Yeah, we are looking at a survey report from the UK. Most of our listeners are in the United States, but we do have a few folks that tune in internationally. Hello to y'all out there. Thanks for joining us. But yeah, we are going to look at this report from the National Clearing Survey by Net Natives, which you can find on their website by Googling those two terms there. And to give a little intro to what we're covering today, I first just wanted to give kind of a little intro to the UK education system and what it looks like, what the admissions process looks like over there for those of us who are not familiar. And of course, I did not know this going into this episode. I had to do a little bit of research, so I just wanted to tell you what I found. Yeah, this was very interesting, very enlightening. Nice to kind of broaden your horizons about. But basically how it works over in the UK is that when you apply to a higher ed institution, you can receive an offer from them, and that offer might have some conditions. Those conditions can be related to grades. Now, that offer might come before you take your UCAS, or the Universities and Colleges Admissions Service Qualification exams. And once you take those, if your grades in those exams do not match what your offer was from the institution that you applied to, you will miss your offer. And at that time, you can then enter the clearing. And the clearing is basically a way for students to find any open admission spots at higher ed institutions within the UK that are unfilled.
Right. And the UCAS is kind of a governing body that it kind of regulates all students looking to go to university. So it's an interesting model and was certainly different. And the clearing process, it sounds a bit ominous, like the reaping in the Hunger Games, but it's not that at all. It's all about finding the right opportunity for you.
Yeah, it's called the clearing in the same way that like a clearing house. But in the US, it might be kind of likened to like rolling admissions or last minute admissions, that sort of thing. Basically a way to fill empty spots at universities and make sure students have a path on board. One of the important things to note about this study is that it is the first year that pre-pandemic grade boundaries, as they are referred to, have been restored. During the pandemic, grade boundaries were set by teacher assessment, and we're trying to just sort of evaluate based on student needs, right? Which was a really common thing we saw internationally during the pandemic for student scoring. But now that pre-pandemic grade boundaries have been restored, student performance levels are relative to each other, effectively, is how that works. And so that, I guess, can kind of take us to the first takeaway that is highlighted at the top of this study, is that there was a 9.2 percentage point drop in A and A-star grades for students that were entering the clearing. So a lot of students missed their offer. 19,000 students missed their offer, and that resulted in 53,000 students in the clearing.
Which sounds like a lot of students in anything, really.
Right, and I think that that's kind of similar to like the same kind of conversation we're having around the standardized test here in the United States with the ACT and the SAT, with some institutions deciding to remain test optional and some, returning to test required. The kind of conversation we're having around whether or not the test is a good indicator of student success.
Yeah, and the kind of difference is that governing body, whereas in America, the institutions are deciding that on their own, but there's this clearinghouse, like you mentioned earlier, that's available for students to try to find a new way into university. There are 4 different segments of students that are in clearing. The primary group is the group that missed the condition, missed the standard. They either didn't get accepted to the university they wanted to go to, or they didn't meet those conditions of your grades need to be this to actually come here. They call those traditional clearing students. And that's by far the biggest group. The next 2 groups are a little smaller. That's the direct applicant, and that's somebody who just goes straight to the clearing. They didn't apply in the first round to see who could get into specific universities. Usually these are older students or non-traditional students that go directly into the clearing, and that's their way to get into it. The third group is simply people that are changing their mind. Maybe they don't want to go to that school anymore, or they don't want to live in a certain area anymore based on what they were originally accepted into. If they don't want to go there, then they can't just say, I'm going to take my second offer. They have to enter the clearing to get another placement. And the smallest group, but maybe the one I find most interesting, is the adjustment applicant. And this is somebody who exceeds the conditions that were placed before them for entry. So now they want to see if they can get into an institution they were more interested in, or maybe better than what they thought they would qualify for. So those are the main groups. And the breakdown, like I said, almost everybody is traditional. Only 4% are the ones that are overachieving. But I think it's, as we think about our groups in the United States, we talk about non-traditional students, part-time, full-time. And a lot of times we talk about people who just are students that want to go through the junior college or community college route. But to look at it as all based on achievement is unique and not really a way we look at it here. Other people's scores and abilities are none of your business here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, the adjustment applicant segment there is kind of similar to the students that will apply to like multiple institutions here in the United States, and will try to find their way into, try to get to the best institution that they can, to their preferred institution, something like that, see where they can get the best offer, that sort of thing. So were there any takeaways about any of these segments that you saw in some of that segment analysis year over year that you thought were interesting?
Yeah, I mean, this was a record number of overall students, and due to the change away from their grading boundaries, that increased the number of direct applicants because they may have not decided to go before, or maybe they have more opportunities the second time around. The traditional applicants, obviously the grades went down overall, so a lot more people chose to go that route. So just the way that it's spread out amongst folks, obviously the adjustment group, the overachieving group is super small. You can also see the points that are assessed at the certain levels. They earn these tariff points, which is how you're kind of graded over hours based on your grades in school. And looking throughout these groups, they also choose subjects that they want to study when they get to college. There's been a new category created. This is allied medicine. So it's not necessarily biology. It's not medical school. It's not nursing. It's studying medicine in general. And that has been one of the top 3 subjects for every group. And that has seen the most growth out of any of the other subjects, because obviously it's newer, but that a lot of people are leaning into that. And I think that goes back to the conversation of, do you have to know what you want to major in? If you're undecided, let's use this middle ground of allied medicine, then I can pick something else later or whatever. But for those mind-changing students, that allied medicine allows them to sit on the rail a little bit longer.
Yeah, so it's like a general studies kind of degree program where you don't have to like pick a specialization or pick a pathway. You can just kind of study the subject in general, and then I don't know, maybe I'm not sure what comes of that like after you complete that degree, but it sounds like you might be able to be a little bit more versatile with it, which is an interesting play.
They also have some great timeline information in this study of what percentage of people apply and get accepted the first time and stick with that. And when are these things happening? When are exams happening? That's April, May, and June. People are getting their results in July, and then in early August, that's where they start planning. And August 15th, I think, is the day when the clearing opens. So, and they break all that down by month. They break it down by segment. So you can go on and see that 34% of traditional students got their results not knowing where they were going to go in August. So it's the timeline breakdown, I think, just goes to show the usual admission cycle we have here, but how it's changed over there with the changing of the boundaries.
Hey there, it's Mallory, Chief Strategist of Enrollify. Higher ed is facing a leadership crisis. The demands on today's college and university leaders are skyrocketing, and talent is leaving the industry at an unprecedented rate. New leaders like you are emerging, but no one is getting the proper training to be successful. Well, Enrollify is here to change that. Our new course, Lessons in Leadership, taught by Dr. Carrie Phillips, will prepare you to be a confident, empathetic, and effective leader. From systems thinking to adaptive leadership, building culture to handling difficult decisions, this comprehensive online course is perfect for new and aspiring leaders. Don't wait. The course starts September 9th, and for a lucky group of 26 students, we have the option to add interactive sessions with Dr. Phillips for personalized guidance. Visit Enrollify.org to learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. And then moving on to another takeaway that I think is maybe a little bit more generalizable here. On page 40, you start talking about some of the barriers to entry for university. And the big mover this year, up 11 percentage points, is the high cost of living. In 2022, about 40% of students recognized high cost of living as a barrier to entry, now up 51%. And that's certainly something that I think is affecting a lot of students here in the States as well. But interestingly, kind of maybe converse to that, or maybe in tandem with it, students who said that there were no barriers to entry is down like 10%, down about 30%, down to 21% this year for the 2023-2024 cycle. Does that check out with what you think is kind of happening here in the States as well?
Yeah, I think it correlates, and I wonder how much of that is barriers we didn't think about before COVID. And again, this is a little bit removed. We're getting to where a lot of these college-going students got to have most of high school in school instead of having a year off to study at home or whatever. But are we recognizing more barriers, or are more barriers there? I think is the question I would ask.
Yeah, that's an interesting follow-up, like our perception of them. Are you talking about kind of like the vibe session?
Yeah, or is it that people used to be more willing to take on student loans, but now somebody who may have not seen that as a barrier before may say, I can go to a trade school and not have those loans now. So maybe that is recognized as a barrier. It always was, but you didn't consider it one before just based on the societal factors around us. So I would say it's somewhere in a combination of both. But yeah, I think that's happening here as well.
Yeah, that's kind of like some meta-analysis of like why people self-report. Interesting to kind of dig into. Hard to quantify though. But that being said, of the NCS respondents, the survey respondents here, 95% of them did secure a place at a university by August of 23. So the barriers of entry are there. And they're certainly a concern, but they're not necessarily impeding students from at least securing a place.
Right.
The other thing I thought would be interesting to point out is a little bit further down, page 47. This is key finding 3 of the survey, and it talks about the sources of information that students go to when they are gathering information about a particular institution. And on average, clearing applicants use 6 sources of information. And I think that's pretty common around the industry at this point. But the top ones, at least for these clearing students, include Google search, so just internet search, the UCAS, which is that governing body in the UK, institution websites, known influencers, and then social media. And those monopolize the top 5, but for the 5th spot at least, there's some tight competition between top universities as like information sources, and the Complete University Guide, which is a publication. So the one that really stuck out to me there was the UCAS. And I think that sort of highlights the importance of governing bodies to provide accurate, timely, non-biased or non-influenced information. But the kind of flip side of that is that some students complained in their comments about the clearing process at the end of the study. Some students complained that the UCS website, where it was outdated, had a bad interface, and that the kind of the process of contacting schools through UCAS was really difficult, unnecessarily difficult, and would like to see that that process and that interface with the system improve a little bit.
And there's always room to improve your systems, but also with an all-time high of students in the clearing process, I could see some log jams happening, some processing issues there. So I think that may have been a part of it, but just to have that body coordinating with institutions of how many spots do you have left, which classes are open, and it going through that third party, or maybe that's the first party. I don't know. Doesn't sound like a party, but I think that makes it more streamlined, but also a little bit more complex as far as that what they have to do. I would love to see this channel breakdown, get rid of Google search and tell me where they landed after their search. If I'm searching something, is it just taking me to the UCAS site? Is it taking me to an institutional website? I would love to see how those shake out a little bit. Or are people ending up on that institutional website even more?
There's also a breakdown between young and mature users or students in the clearing process. So young being 17 to 20-year-olds, mature being 21 and up, and the channels that they use. For the most part, Google search, UCAS had a bit of a difference between young and mature users, with young users trusting them a little bit more, utilizing them a little bit more. But for the institution website, it was pretty level on.
Identical,
so mature, young students and mature students are both leaning on the website and trusting the website, and in an equal amount. Young students are also utilizing like guides and publications about university and university processes more than mature students are. We're seeing like maybe a 5 or so percentage point difference between those for the student room and the Complete University Guide, which are some publications, where mature students, though, are turning to like blogs and news articles more than young students are. So like Times Higher Education has more of a viewership amongst mature students than it does young students.
Yeah, and I think that tracks pretty well with what you would expect. It also breaks down the social media usage. Snapchat's far and away the most utilized, but it is down from the previous year. And really the primary one that has jumped up is TikTok, which I feel like every week we decide in America we're going to ban TikTok. We haven't yet. Also, Be Real has come in as a newer platform and has made a big bump. It went from, it wasn't really a thing in 2022, but now it's got 20% of individuals that are going to it to check out school information. So new channel making a big bang early.
Absolutely. And this is kind of reflective of like how students are trying to build a variety of perspectives and not just get information, but get vibes, get, kind of a sense of the zeitgeist around a particular institution and what people think of it. And that can be a hugely important factor in their decision.
And we've had interviews with our friends from ZME as well, and that's what they do a lot of. They gather a lot of information from students so they can get how does everybody else feel? How do people who are there feel about this? Instead of reading in the news about programs being offered, they want to know people's experiences. And I think that's what social media also illustrates. So all in all, I feel like this study tracks well as far as the intentions, the feelings, the stress. There's some sentiment analysis in here that American students go through, but the governing body process, I think, adds something that maybe American institutions and Department of Ed should study a little bit more, just to say, which I guess the Department of Ed is ours, right? But it's much more hands off with the actual students. So that was intriguing to me to look at the measurements of how often people are utilizing that. And it's very highly utilized. It's not like it's just sitting there. So that was my primary takeaway is should something like that exist here?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a lot of interesting information in this report. You can find the whole thing on the Net Natives website. It's a download after you submit their form. So definitely go check that out and see some of the different data points in there. They also have one that's specific to international students, and then one of their like paid offers is actually like a brand survey, a brand tracker. So that's kind of interesting. That might be interesting to our marketing listeners. But thank you for joining us today as we kind of delve into the higher ed institution system in the UK. Thanks for bearing with us as we learn about it as you do as well. So for Jamie Boggs, I'm Timothy Davis. Thanks for joining us. See you in the next one.
The EduData podcast is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like the other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month. We've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional.
Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Artis Cadu, Dustin Ramsdale, Jeremy Tiers, and so many of your other favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.